calling to order the Municipality of Monroeville's Citizens Night and Council Meeting for October 13th, 2020. It is approximately 7:10 p.m. If we'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. We'll start with a roll call, please.
Mayor Grieslock,
Here.
Mrs. Gatos,
Here.
Mr. Poach,
Here.
Mr. Harvey,
Here.
Mr. Wolfram,
Here.
Mr. Arasenko,
Here.
Mr. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Mr. Little,
Here.
Mr. Ratcher,
Here.
Mr. Yugas,
Here.
Mr. Sedlak.
Here.
Ladies and gentlemen and council, I'm going to start with an announcement. It is October, and I just want to announce that this year we will be having trick-or-treating. Halloween night, we are having trick-or-treating October 31st on Halloween night. It's a Saturday, 6 to 8 p.m. Yes, there was a lot of discussion and a lot of consideration with the current situation with the pandemic, but it being an outdoor event, I feel that it can be done safely. And we really want to just ask people to still practice social distancing to the best of their ability, to use hand sanitizer often, consider wearing Halloween-themed cloth masks, try to stay with small groups or with family and those you live with, and try to stay in your neighborhood if possible. Also, whenever you are handing out treats, we really want to try to advocate for one-way trick-or-treating. So it's not don't leave the bowl out for everybody to reach into, but perhaps have maybe a table out on your porch or on your driveway and have individual, whether it's your individual candy bars or individually wrapped gift bags where a kid can come up and take the treat, and then you can replenish that. But let's all try to use some common sense, and it's really been a challenging year for everyone, and I think this is one small thing we can do for the children of our community that a lot of people look forward to. And ultimately, if you're not comfortable, no one's forcing you to participate. So it's certainly voluntary, but I've decided to have trick-or-treating, as we always do. It's rain or shine. It'll be on Halloween night, 6 to 8 p.m. So we're going to move over to our Citizens Night portion of the meeting. I have a sign-in sheet of people that have signed in prior to the meeting, but also as we get moving forward, if anyone would like to address council on any municipal item, now would be your chance to do so. We always ask to limit your comments to 5 minutes. This is an effort to keep our meeting moving forward, and typically 5 minutes is an ample amount of time for you to get your point across. Certainly, if you don't feel your point was made, you have another opportunity at the end of the meeting to speak, and also, too, you can certainly contact me or your council representative to discuss any matters further. But 5 minutes, let's try to hold it to that so we can keep the meeting moving along. So we're going to start with Heather Wilmot.
Yes.
Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes.
The floor is yours. So if you could just state your name for the record and that you are a Monroeville resident.
My name is Heather Wilmot. I am a Monroeville resident. I am here representing the residents of the Lower Evergreen Drive. Myself and several other residents on Evergreen went around to the houses and asked people to sign a petition to get speed bumps, humps, whatever, installed on our street. We have all but like 3 people on the street signed the petition. It was given to Mr. Wilson, and I'm just here to speak on behalf of that. I've lived on Evergreen most of my life. It's a dangerous road. It's a hill, if you're familiar with it. We have the new complex that's going in at the bottom of the hill, and we already have a lot of people that use that road as a cut through. With the addition of the complex going in, I believe it's 91 units are going in, so let's assume each person in that complex has one car. Some families are gonna have 2 cars. That's an extra 91 to however many more people driving on that road. We've had animals killed because people fly up that road. We've had cars hit. We've had close encounters with children. I have children. There are many children that live on that road, and they don't obey signs. There's speed limit signs. Several residents have slow down signs in the yards. It's just a dangerous road, especially, I live at the top of the hill, where if you're coming from where the complex is gonna be, you can't really see until you're at the top of that hill, and by then it's too late, especially if you're going too fast. We ask that you would consider installing some speed humps to help slow people down. Also maybe to deter people from using that road as a cut-through. It's dangerous, and we're afraid for our families. We're afraid for our pets. We're afraid for our kids, for our cars. And we just ask that you all would consider doing that. I know I've heard that it could be an issue because of snow removal. However, there are speed humps on Logan's Ferry, and I assume that road gets plowed just like every other road in the municipality. I know people speed along that road and use that road as a cut through as well. So again, on behalf of the residents of Lower Evergreen, I ask that you consider putting in some kind of device that'll deter people from speeding through our neighborhood.
Okay. Well, Heather, we certainly have, we hear you loud and clear. We have the petition.
I have
If-
a copy.
Perfect.
Should I turn it in for the record?
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll get that off you at the end of
Okay.
the meeting,
All right.
Mr. Wilson. And then, what
May
we'll
I
ask-
comment, Mayor?
Yeah, and I was gonna suggest that we turn it over to our engineering
Yes.
department to evaluate it
Right.
and see what can be done, you know, if something can be done, if there needs to be a traffic study or anything along those lines, but we certainly understand your request.
Okay. And if there's anything else that you need from me or anyone else on that, Dave and Penny Morris were instrumental in getting this started as well. I know that they would be willing to do what
Great.
they can
Yeah,
do
and
as
everyone's
well.
phone numbers are here, so that's great. You did a
Yes.
great job with the petitions. It's really helpful. So we'll turn it over to our engineering department and see what they come up with and see what can be done.
Okay. Thank you all for your time.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Is
it.
there anything else you wanted
You
to
know,
add?
yeah, I'd like to add, that road, since the complex is going in down there, we asked them not to have their trucks go off of Garden City Drive and get down to their complex, their delivery trucks and so forth. So they come in off of the
No,
Old William Penn Highway.
they don't. I've had to call numerous times and complain because I know that they got.
Well, we can't hear you. You got
I'm
a
sorry.
microphone.
I know that they got a variance to allow their larger trucks that can't make that bend from Old William Penn. However, I've had to call numerous times to the municipality, especially during quarantine, to report vehicles that are going to that complex, dump trucks that can make that turn, numerous other trucks, not only using that way, but speeding. And we were out for a walk the one day, and I had to yank my family into a yard because there was a dump truck flying, and I yelled at him to slow down, and he actually yelled back at me. So my husband has forbidden
I'm
me to yell
sorry.
at cars.
I thought.
Okay, we're gonna
I thought
look
they
into
were
this further,
compliant.
not only the speed humps, but
I
also,
will make a phone call on that.
yeah, we can,
Yeah, but I know I've reported them numerous times, and I know other neighbors have as
Yeah.
well. So, I mean, it's already created an issue
Oh, sure.
that complex
And you're
has.
aware of good old Pennsylvania, 35 miles an hour is allowable on your road.
No,
25.
25.
25, that one.
10 over,
Oh,
35.
So then,
Not enforceable until they hit 36.
Well, anyway, we need to
Well,
slow
Heather,
it
Just letting you know.
thank you
Thank
for bringing
you.
this to our attention.
Yeah, we need to slow it down because
That-
there's a lot of young families out there, and
There's
I
gonna be
think
more.
it's very important
Right.
that,
Is there any signage such
Pardon me?
as, is there any signage like, no cut, no cut throughs,
well, there was, and they took it down.
No,
It
it
was
didn't say
right
no
at
cut.
the turn of Garden City. When you come off Garden City Drive, there was right there at the corner, there was no construction vehicles or something
well,
like that.
it seems to me that we're talking about almost two separate issues. One is what's going on with the construction that needs to be dealt with, and one is the idea of
Right,
maybe putting up
right.
some signs of no cut through, children at play, slow down,
There
all
are-
of those.
There
Right.
are speed limit and children at play signs, and
But there's
no
no,
video-based signs.
well,
Yeah, we're, once again, we're gonna,
I'm sorry.
we'll evaluate, we're gonna evaluate all of it, and I think it's,
Yeah.
Mr.
Thank you
Hugus,
very
yeah,
much
your
for-
department can look
I
at both
appreciate it.
items, possibly speed humps, and then we reach out to the
reach out to
developer,
the
the
developer.
contractor, let them
Yeah.
know some of these things we're hearing. That'd be great. Thank
I
you.
appreciate it, thank you
Sure.
very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
David English.
Good evening, David English, Ward 4 Representative and the Board of Directors President for the Monroeville Public Library. Two reasons to visit with you tonight. First, to thank Monroeville for support last month during Love Your Library Month. Not only were the comments and the feedback appreciated, but the financial contributions were as well. So I want to pass that along to everyone. My other reason for being here this evening is to follow up on the board's request to council to consider bringing back half of our part-time staff to allow us to meet some of the needs that we have at the library. As you know, when the pandemic started, the library staff with the board support volunteered for furlough. And the full-time and the part-time staff were furloughed for a while. Now the full-time staff are back, and they're working their fingers to the bone. In fact, we're to the point where we've done about 3/4 of what we did before the pandemic in terms of circulation over the last couple of months. But we're getting to a critical juncture right now. So there's really three things that we're dealing with. One is requests from the community. Community is looking for opportunities to have more circulation, more browsing, more participation in activities and programs. But we're also dealing with the fact that the state requires public libraries to maintain a minimum of 45 hours a week, with 7 of those hours being on a weekend. They've given us a waiver up to now because of the pandemic. We don't know how much longer that's going to be in effect, and we certainly want to be able to both provide what residents are asking for and meet those minimum hours. The third reason, though, I think is most important. We all know this is a difficult situation with the pandemic and with finances. In our particular case, the more we do in terms of circulation and participation, the better we do with our finances from the outside sources of funds, the county and the state. If we can ratchet up those numbers over the last couple of months in the year, we can then turn around and make certain that those funding sources that come from outside the municipality are strengthened, and we can get those funds because they're allowing the CARES Act to continue to provide funds through those venues for us. So we ask your consideration in helping us to meet that need, to make certain that we can continue to bring in those funds to offset some of what we've all lost over the last few months and expect to lose over the coming months. And we really do want to express our appreciation for everything that you've been doing along the way with the pandemic. My colleague, Deb Issac, our past president, has some comments that we wanted to share from some of the residents, some of the thank you notes that we did see throughout the pandemic and through Love Your Library Month that we thought were important for you to see and to share. But again, we thank you very much for your support, and we appreciate your consideration of the.
How many
David, you
employees
said,
are talking
David, you
about?
mentioned, so the full-time staff are all there.
They are back.
How many full-time staff are currently working?
11 full-time staff.
11
are
full-time
currently.
staff. So I think council, it's up, I would suggest that Mr. Little, the manager, meet with, or discuss this with Nicole, the director, Nicole Henline, and see if it's something that needs to be done.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
My understanding is that prior to, there was the idea that the RAD money was not going to be coming through due to the pandemic, but now that the CARES Act
Correct.
is actually gonna come and back that up to then
That's correct.
increase the RAD money that you were not gonna be able to be
Correct.
getting,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
So now that's turned around where the CARES Act's actually going to fund that. So now, looking at that piece of the puzzle is
Right.
that now they're looking at the people coming in and out of the door, which is basically the picking up of books and such, they're counting all of that, as well as the circulation.
Right.
Which has to, of course, be cleansed and sanitized and all of that before it can
That's
go back
correct.
out again. Am I
Right,
correct?
That's correct.
That's step
The
one.
books have to be actually quarantined.
Yeah.
And then the staff actually clean them before they're put together for patrons to pick them
Okay,
up.
so based on everything that we just talked about there, what percentage are we gonna be recovering by the increase of the part-time personnel? Let's say we bring half of the part-timers back.
Right.
What, where's our,
If we bring at least the half of the part-time staff back, as we discussed, we should be willing to bring double what we spend on them back through those county funds. That's assuming that circulation continues as it has, which
Right.
we have no reason to doubt that it won't, and that we continue to have the participation coming through the door, participating in the online programs, and where we can fit them, the in-person programs within the guidelines under COVID.
okay, and my last question is going to be, I am sure that Nicole has done a really good job of streamlining the full-time employees that are there now. Maybe some of the online programming, people aren't able to do, like, say, read a book today because
Correct.
they have to help with the sanitation of the books. So
Yeah.
is everybody kind of like,
Absolutely. In fact, you're talking about 11 people who are spending a huge amount of time doing what was spread throughout the part-timers before the pandemic. So we're talking about just the normal things like shelving, but we're also talking about cleaning the books, cleaning the computers before and after visits, making sure surfaces are clean where they check in, check out. Those are things that we didn't do beforehand, and they already did all that cleaning beforehand. We just didn't do it on the scale
Right.
that we do now with the pandemic. So yes, you're talking about them not having the ability to then go out and do some of the other programming that has been requested.
right, and then these part-timers can help with some weekend hours.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, which
That's
is really where it's
one of the
lacking at this.
primary, Friday and Saturday are our primary requests. Right now, we are not offering in-person browsing on Friday or computer use, and we don't have any hours on Saturday because of the staffing
Okay.
situation.
And last question.
Yes.
Just so I'm completely clear, because I read your letter, I tried to, go
Yes.
through it and all your information. If you would bring on, let's say, half the people, half the part-timers, what would that equal as far as, we'll say dollars versus a full-time person? Because there's no benefits.
Correct.
So would it, say, five part-time people each equal how many?
That grouping
Ish.
that we're talking about bringing back would be the equivalent of about 4 FTE, so 4 full-time equivalents for the grouping we're asking for.
Okay,
Most of them work approximately 20 hours a week.
Okay.
The majority, not all. There are some who work less, but the majority work about 20 hours a week.
so you're looking at 5 people, 20 hours each.
Uh,
Is that about what?
We're asking for 10 total people who in total would work approximately 20 hours a week.
Okay, okay.
There are 20,
You please
Debbie,
sign-
you know
sign
better.
here.
I'm sorry.
She should.
I should. Debbie Izok.
You get an extra 5 minutes, too.
I won't take that. Linda, to answer that, there are 20 part-time employees
Okay,
that we are without right now.
okay,
So just to be clear,
So 31 employees.
Correct.
correct. So 11 employees are currently doing as much of the job of 31. So it's almost a 3-to-1 ratio that we're at
Right.
right now. And I will cite an example that we were talking about. Nicole, who is the director, who, has taken on a tremendous amount of what the part-timers and would never ask of her staff anything that she herself would not do. She can spend anywhere up to 18 to 20 hours a week on cataloging books, which is something that a part-time employee would have done. So with cataloging, that is, and every book that comes into the library has to be documented. Any book that leaves has to be documented. All of that goes back again into very strict reporting that then goes back into the whole ACLA requirements and state funding requirements. So with that, that is taking away from her ability to do her job. But
Yeah.
again, she will do anything that she needs to relieve any of her other full-time.
And adding a point to that too, Debbie,
Yeah.
to add into everyone else, was that where
I-
that has been added has been, and only because I'm familiar with this and have attended the ACLA piece of that as well, online with them too, is that includes the sequestering and documentation that what has been brought in has been sequestered, set aside, and handled, so that's added to that process too. So these things are isolated. It's almost as if we're socially distancing the books before they go in.
We are.
But they
72
but
hours.
they have to
72
account
hours.
for
Who requires that?
That was the
Department of
state's
Education.
requirement when it
It's the
started.
state, okay.
We're hoping they're going to change that because there are some studies now that are suggesting that that time may be a little too long.
Okay.
But
I have
that
two
was the
questions.
state.
One
Yes, sir.
is, if the full-timers work more than 40 hours, we have to pay them overtime, correct?
No,
No,
Their
No.
salary.
their salary.
their salary.
Pardon me?
Their salary. They are not paid
Oh,
overtime.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. And so basically, what you're asking is to bring part-timers in for Saturday, Friday and Saturday, you're
And
busy
the
your
other two
time.
evening, right now, we're only doing evening hours Tuesday and Thursday.
Right, okay. And then, I understand the high school's closed, still, is it still closed?
My understanding is they were going to open this coming
I don't
month.
know. Yeah, but
I don't
But
go to high
that
school anymore.
increased your volume too, didn't it? Because of the students able to come in to use your
Well,
services?
the families are requesting assistance with items that they need to
Right.
accomplish what they,
Right.
whether it's virtual or in person. The
Right,
families are
right,
requesting
right.
them.
And
Yes.
that probably is an ongoing
Absolutely.
situation anyway, so,
Correct.
okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Sure,
Mr.
Steve.
Mayor, yeah. Thank you for both coming up, and I certainly understand what you're saying. But for council, what I would feel bad is we brought these part-timers back. Now, everybody's going to hear it in Tim's report tonight. We're going to have a pretty big deficit. Last thing I want to do is bring people on and lay them off again.
Understood.
And, you know, I hear what you're saying, but folks, we're going to really have to think about this, and please tune into the budget process, because I think you're going to appreciate the dilemma we're facing. And it's just not for the remainder of this year. We're talking 21 and maybe even 22 having issues. We're going to lose some pretty significant revenue. So you may be pushing the envelope on 10, but listen, there's nobody up here doesn't support what you're doing.
We understand.
But again, it's a money factor. I mean, it's going to
But
be.
they're also saying they're gonna get basically funds brought in that's going to help cover the
Correct.
costs.
Yeah, but we're still have to put the money out. Then are they going to reimburse the municipality then for the salaries that we're putting out? No.
No, not the way the formula works.
I understand that, but I wanted to get that out
That's his
there.
point.
Okay.
How many hours a week is the library currently open?
34.
34 hours a
34.
week.
34 hours.
And that's where people can schedule to come in?
Correct.
That's
To
not-
contactless pickup, schedule to come in for appointments, for browsing, or for use of the computers. That's correct.
And are they open more hours for when residents aren't in there and just it's staff?
Well, staff, as the question was posed, most of the staff are there more than 40 hours. But when you're talking
Well, I
about
guess
being
all the-
there,
all the
they're not
staff-
there for hours beyond that. They may be there for a little while to finalize some things that they're working on, but no,
So,
there's
yeah,
no
you
other
actively see people 34 hours a week.
Correct.
But obviously 11 full-time, they are working 40 hours a week.
Correct.
Okay, each, got it.
Correct.
Okay.
As opposed to the normal amount of library hours.
Before the pandemic,
Yeah.
we either
9
were
to 9.
64 or 67 hours a week.
Yeah. So it's about
67.
So we're about half of what we were
Correct.
before.
Correct.
Wasn't 72, I knew that wasn't.
Yeah, 67 except in the summer. We close on Sundays in the summer.
Again, we truly have valued the relationship, and the friendship that we've developed, with council and what we've done in terms of what we've been able to bring to the community. So we just want to make it very clear that we want to continue, that relationship all the way around. We're going to be as sensitive and as reasonable as we can in reaching out, and Mr. Urasinko, I hear you loud and clear. We don't want to be in that position of having
Well,
that.
and I don't either. I'd feel
I
really
understand.
bad.
It's a good point. It is a point that we hear and we're sensitive to, and, but we're hoping that there's a midway point.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is we're going to certainly take what you said into consideration, but that's going to only be a part of the entire budget.
Agreed.
Again, we have a lot of issues that we're going to have to look hard at.
Well, then why don't we have Mr. Little sit down with Nicole? See kind of where things are falling, Tim, and, where maybe we can come to some kind of a middle
Yeah,
ground.
council doesn't need to make a decision this evening.
Oh, we're
I
not
think
making any
it's
decision
Most
this
appropriate
evening.
for Mr. Little to look into.
This is be a budget process,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Right.
Well, yes and no. The only thing that I'll add to that is the hours and the circulation, the credit to be done before the end of the year time to get counted back, to get the money back from the ACLA piece. So as soon as.
Again, I have no issue with that, but again, we got to look at I'm sorry. We
Absolutely.
have,
No,
the
Greg,
budget's
that's-
tight,
I
sorry.
think everyone understands that
We do.
piece of it.
We do.
Yep, we do. That's why the group actually volunteered for the furlough. They really have been
They did.
positive about this. so
Our,
we do
our,
understand.
our director.
Oh, Dave, I know you do. I know you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate you both, coming here and.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So thank you for bringing it to our attention.
And thank you very much for
Yeah.
your continuing support and for
Thank you.
consideration of
Thank
this.
you.
We do appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
You're
welcome.
That's what
Thank
it
you.
says.
Yeah, but your voice sounds better too.
Michael Polinick. Welcome, Michael. If you could just, you could pick a microphone, either one, left or right.
He's here for the,
Show cause hearing.
Show cause hearing,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to you in a moment, unless
Okay.
there's something else you wanted to add.
No.
Okay, very good. Is there anyone else here in attendance that would like to address council on any municipal item? Once again, the show cause hearings, we're going to get to that, if there's anyone else for that, but if there's anyone that wants to address council on any municipal item, now would be your chance. We'll close that portion of the meeting. And moving over to our regular council meeting, I have an executive session announcement for the record that council conducted an executive session before this evening's council meeting on Tuesday, October 13th, from 6:15 PM until 7 PM for personnel and litigation reasons. Council legislative action, if any, shall be taken at tonight's council meeting. Council, the minutes for, that are in front of you are for the Citizens Night meeting of September 8th, 2020, and the regular council meeting of September 8th, 2020. And once again, we combined our work session and regular council meeting last month. So actually, we are at the regular council meeting. Is there a motion to approve these?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Council, any additions, comments, questions about those minutes?
No, sir.
Seeing none, we have a motion and a second to approve those minutes. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Urasinko?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
And just for everyone's, Mr. Wolfram is here, I don't want to say in spirit, but by telephone. That's not,
ahead, Nick.
it's Halloween time, right?
Yeah, uh-huh.
No, Mr. Wolfram is
There he
on the
is.
phone. There he is.
There we
So
go.
That was
he
good,
is,
Mayor.
he is present, and there will be a little bit of a delay in maybe some of the interactions there, but we know you're there, Steve,
Thanks a lot.
and your picture looks good. Okay, council, so we have, the ayes have it for those minutes. They are approved. Moving over to our approval of our tax collections, is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Council, any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Urasinko?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Council, list of bills and budget transfers. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any council, any questions or comments? Mr. Harvey?
Yes, Tim, on page 48 of the bills,
I'm sorry, which page, Ron?
48.
48, it says LGA Partners for building security for $6,602. I don't understand that.
That's not, let me get to that page. Hold on.
It's the very bottom of the
Yeah, I
page, I
got
think.
municipal building security, LGA Partners. Let me get back to you on that, Ron.
I believe that started before the pandemic, and I think that's whenever council was looking into upgrading the
Oh,
security
I'm
of the
sorry, that's, oh,
buildings.
yeah, that's, I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah, the mayor's
Evaluating
right.
all the buildings.
Yeah, that was for the,
I
the
was just surprised
invoice
it's,
for the architectural firm.
Right.
LGA, the architectural firm that came in the spring before the pandemic started, as Nick mentioned. And they sent an email, an invoice in May, and it got lost in the shuffle, which was my fault, but then they resent the email in September, and it's being paid now.
and this is for the analyzing the municipal
Correct.
security in
Exactly,
general.
correct.
Okay.
That was the one that the comprehensive, they were Public Works building.
Yeah, I remember them now.
Very good. Mr. Harvey, any other questions this evening?
That's
about the
it.
List of bills. Council, anyone else have any questions or comments about the list of bills or budget transfers? We have a motion and a second to approve. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Arsenko?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Payroll report. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Arsenko?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Council, we're moving over to the vacancies on boards, commissions, and authorities. And before we do that, if I could skip ahead to our motions this evening. Under our first motion, I think this is usually the most appropriate time to do it. Under our first motion, there is a motion to accept the resignation of Kathy Forrest from the Library Board, Ward 7. There's an attached letter, so if I could seek a motion to,
Tom?
So moved.
is there a second to accept that
I'll second.
resignation of
Second.
Kathy? Motion is second. Any comments or questions?
Comments is.
Thank you
is-
for your service, Kathy.
Amen to that.
Exactly.
Absolutely. She's
Yeah, thank you,
absolutely
Kathy.
Wonderful, and,
I'm sure we're gonna miss you, but I understand the situation. Thank you.
yeah.
And we have our library people here nodding their heads too, and yes, I mean, obviously, we know
Contribution.
how important the library board is to the library itself, so Kathy, thank you so much for your help and your service to our community. So there is a motion and a second to approve this resignation. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Regrettably, aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Arsenko?
Aye.
I have
Mr.
an echo.
Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram? He said aye.
He
He's
voted
in
in the
there
affirmative,
Yes, he
yes.
did.
And the ayes have it for that motion. So council, let's move back over to our vacancies on boards and commissions and authorities. That's your blue section of your packet. Mrs. Gatos, do you have anything this evening?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and finish the appointment for the planning commission with Paula Montgomery.
And that is for I'm sorry.
An appointment for the
Appointment.
planning commission for Paula Montgomery.
I'll second that.
There's a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Anything else, Mrs. Gatos?
No, but if anyone wants to look, there's a ton of openings and vacancies on boards. And obviously, we just heard of another one opening up on the library, so if anyone's interested, please take a look on the websites and put your name in if you want to be part of something. So with that,
Very good.
thank you.
Mr. Poach?
Mrs. Gatos took the words right out of my mouth.
Ooh,
Mr. Harvey?
I can't.
it's true.
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Wilson?
Nothing.
Mr. Arasinko?
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Williams?
Nothing.
Mr. Wolfram?
I have nothing for you, Mayor.
Thank you. So council, we're moving over to our motions. We already accepted the first one. Now we're over to our second motion. Mr. Little, please.
Yeah, motion number
Excuse me,
two,
Jeff, I have a letter that I'd like to read into record for these two motions. From the owner.
Let's get them
Okay,
moving
fine.
forward, and then we'll come to you in a
Right,
second, Mr. Wilson. So, Mr. Little, please.
okay, it's a motion to authorize to advertise an ordinance amending ordinance number 848 regulating parking within the Heather Drive Hammerhead turnaround area. There is an attachment on your white pages for this that explains, everybody knows where Heather Drive is off of Duff Road.
I do.
And this is for parking prohibited at all times as amended hereby as amended by the addition of the following no parking regulations, both sides at the Hammerhead turnaround at the end of Heather Drive.
And so, council, and then our third motion as well, this is on Karen Court. So these are the same, I mean, they're obviously different streets, but it's the same development. Is that true?
Yeah, I believe, yeah, Karen
Yes,
Court is the
yes.
same, yeah, with Heather Drive, correct.
Mr. Wilson, is your letter regarding both of these items?
Yes.
Okay. So, let's get a motion, if there's a motion for this second item, the item that Mr. Little just read. Is there a motion to authorize to advertise the ordinance?
Mayor, before we do that, I'd like to read this into record so that everybody understands.
But I want to get the motion, the second first, then we'll get your record,
Okay.
letter in the record
Okay.
before. we-
Motion.
Thank you. We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Now, Mr. Wilson, if you
Okay.
please.
This is from Tartan Terrace, the homeowners association and Ackery Commercial Realty Agents. And I hope this letter finds you safe and well. I'm writing to you today to request the Monroeville Municipality post no parking signs at the end of Heather Drive and Karen Court. Now, it's just no parking on those two areas because when our vehicles go in there, the garbage truck, the fire trucks, the plows and different things like that, they don't have access to turn around. And these people have plenty of parking behind their house and in different places like that. So all we're asking for in the Hammerhead is to have no parking. Now, the second part is for Heather Drive and Karen Court, we're asking for a 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. no parking in that period of time. And this is from the Tartan Terrace Homeowners Association and the property manager, Tracy Homer. Yes.
To do the between 2 and 6, that's already in our ordinance status, correct, Mr. Yugas?
Correct.
So why do we need to advertise? And if
I
we
don't
do
know.
them both as from 2 to 6, then that would alleviate the parking on both of them so that they couldn't, so
Right,
I don't
right.
see why we have to
Well,
advertise
ask
these.
Mr. Yugas, because he told me that we had to do
The
this.
2 a.m. to 6 a.m. can be done administratively,
Yes,
but the no parking anytime has to be done by ordinance.
right. So why, Mr. Wilson, if one of them is okay to do the 2 to 6, that's administratively, he's saying.
Correct.
Why can't we just do the other one the same way? That would eliminate the parking anyway.
Fine, whatever.
Well,
Because I did that on one of
Well, just
mine.
to follow up, because Tom and I discussed this, if you go down there during normal business hours, there's still a lot of people parking in those areas. So it's still creating a problem.
These two motions here are just the cul-de-sac and the turnaround.
That's correct.
That's just the turnaround, yeah.
Correct. That's for the no parking anytime.
Correct.
Right.
The only problem I see with those times is the garbage truck don't come past
Missing
my
it.
house until 7 o'clock.
You're mixing two things up.
Right.
The cul-de-sacs that are on our agenda are asking for an ordinance to post signs that are enforceable.
No parking anytime.
No parking anytime. That's in the cul-de-sacs and the turnarounds. The 2 to 4, 2 to 5, whatever it is.
2 to 6.
2 to 6.
It's
That's
just the
that's a
road.
separate issue.
But he said one way and one the other when he was, so I
Made a
don't know.
mistake.
Oh,
I'm just telling you,
oh,
read what's on here.
oh, okay,
Mr.
okay.
Hughes
That's
is-
what I'm trying to figure out.
Yes, so, thank you, Mr. Harvey, for bringing that up. So yes,
Thanks, Ron.
if you look at the actual
Okay.
ordinance that we're, and once again, we're just asking to advertise this. We're not voting on this, the actual outcome tonight. We're only voting on to advertise it so we can act on it for the next month.
Well, but I didn't understand the advertising if it was only gonna
Exactly.
be something that was already in place.
Correct.
No.
The
That's,
no parking
that's,
in the cul-de-sacs is not already in place.
right, I get that. But then he said he was just gonna do the one from 2 to 6, so I didn't understand why we were advertising.
Well, 2 to
Yes.
6 is on the
So-
driveways, the drive up to that place, on the Karen Court and Heather Drive.
So we're gonna do no parking altogether on both.
Right, on the roadway
Correct.
systems.
It's 2 to
just
6.
2 to 6 we can do administratively.
Okay.
It's the cul-de-sac
The
and the
cul-de-sacs,
hammerhead.
we're gonna do the full.
No parking in the
Gotcha.
town.
Complete
Now-
no parking, yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
all right,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Does everybody have that?
Yep.
Okay. So, council, I have a motion, a second for the,
I'd like to make a motion.
so I have a motion, a second for the first one already. Let's take a vote on that one. So this is for Heather Drive. I know it's Tartan Terrace and they're the same thing, but we'll do them individually. So we have a motion, a second to approve the advertisement for Heather Drive. Roll
The
call,
ordinance.
please. To advertise the ordinance. Roll call, please. Voting in the affirmative is saying that, yes, go ahead and advertise, and we'll talk about it next month.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Arsenko?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye,
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Now, I'm looking for a motion for the second item, which is the Karen Court.
It's-
right, I'd like to make a motion for the Karen Court.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions, council?
Nope.
Nope.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye,
Mr. Arsenko?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Now, the other item that Mr. Hughes brought up, the 2 a.m. to 6 a.m.,
That could be handled administratively.
right, and council, I mean, everyone's in favor of that, and move forward with that, the 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And I think it's an important, I don't know who brought it up, but it's important, I maybe Mr. Wilson did. All these homes or townhomes, they all have garages, they all have driveway spaces. We're not,
especially the ones on the lower side. They have parking behind their home, and they have a two-car, everybody has a two-car garage.
Jeez.
and they also have a pavement area in front of that garage
Right,
as well.
exactly, right.
So we're not
And they have driveways to
hardship.
take it.
we're not creating a hardship
No
by
hardship.
any means. So,
What do visitors do?
Sorry?
If a house has a
Well,
6,
during the day, it's not an issue till two AM in the morning.
no, that's true.
and then they could park on the driveway portion.
I just meant if they had relatives.
No, I agree, yeah, yeah.
Very
The
good.
same with like moving vans and so forth.
Excellent. Moving forward on our resolutions, we have a number of resolutions this evening. Mr. Little, please.
Okay, the first two are somewhat of a housekeeping item. First one is a resolution approving the disposition of records as set forth in the Municipal Records Manual. This is an annual resolution we pass in order to dispose of those records we have in storage that, under the Municipal Records Manual, which applies to all the municipalities and cities, well, I shouldn't say cities, but all the municipalities, boroughs, townships in the Commonwealth. And you have an attachment on the pink sheet, attachment A, of those records that we're permitted to get rid of, to dispose of.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Arsenko?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Mr. Little.
Okay, the second one is a resolution authorizing the distribution of the 2020 General Municipal Pension System aid pursuant to the Municipal Pension Plan Act 205 of 1984. Council, that's on your pink sheet. The second resolution, we received $876,442 from the state this year, but we're looking at approximately $4.6 million in pension. That will be going to PMRS for non-uniform and Janie Montgomery for the police pension plan.
Motion.
Second.
Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Arsenko?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Okay, resolutions 3 through 7 are what is called a show cause public hearing in which we have to have with respect to the possibility of demolishing certain single-family structures within the municipality. And Mr. Sonnenfeld, I believe, has a PowerPoint presentation on each of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 structures that are being proposed to be demolished. And anybody that wishes to make a comment would have to be sworn in. But I'm going to let Mr. Sonnenfeld go through his presentation, and anybody who is here for their individual structure, an owner, a neighbor, or somebody who is an heir to an estate, anything of that matter, and if they want to make a comment, then they're going to have to be sworn in.
Yeah, why don't we swear everybody in at once, including
Yeah.
our folks here?
Good idea.
So, Mr. Hughes, Mr. Sonnenfeld, and then if there's anyone else in the audience that's here to speak, yes, Mr. Polinick, yes, thank you. Anyone else that's here that plans on speaking on these matters, now would be your time to stand up so you can be sworn in. Okay. Gentlemen, if you please raise your right hand. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. So, gentlemen, if you want to proceed with your presentation, Mr. Polinick, just have a seat and we'll get to you and we'll give you your time, okay?
Before Jason gets started, I had some inquiries, real quick. So in January of 2019, we went through a show cause hearing for 10 structures. The municipality has applied for a grant through DCED for those structures. What I have here on a map is, I don't know if you could see it, everything in green represents those 10 structures that were part of that show cause hearing that occurred and is being paid for out of a grant. Those demolitions are going to start within the next week, week and a half. The notice to proceed has been issued for that.
Mr. Hughes, I'm sorry, because we can't really pick up the green. So how many are there, did you say?
There's 10 with a previous, there was some confusion here. There's 10 with a previous show cause hearing and demolitions. There's 10 structures related to that.
And they'll all be moving forward.
And those will all be
All
moving
10.
forward within the next week, week and a half.
Very good.
What we're here tonight for is we have 5 new show cause hearings.
Understood.
And those were represented with the red. I guess you can't pick those up.
No, can you point, just
Yeah,
kind
point to
of,
if you point to the red ones.
Yeah,
Sure.
'cause
The
we
the
can-
5 that are here tonight is 213 Wallace Drive, 232 Willow, 2521 Woodlawn, 320 Valley Road, and 2820 Robert Street are the 5 that you'll be speaking about tonight. Okay? So those are what on the agenda. So I'll let Jason start with his presentation.
Good
Mr.
evening,
Sonnenfeld,
everybody.
welcome.
Thank you. Jared, if you want to change over to the PowerPoint, please. Laptop set up over there. Everybody has a handout.
Can you just identify yourself? for the record?
Jason Sonnenfeld for the building inspector for the Municipality of Monroeville. Tonight, we're going to go over the 5 buildings that Mr. Hughes identified here. Currently, all the structures are vacant. The initial mailings for these structures were sent out in March of 2020. We sent out 30-day letters, and they were also posted on the buildings, trying to get some interaction with the homeowners or property owners, what they're going to do with the properties. The structures were then posted per the regulations with the yellow placard cards on all sides of the building to identify them. Hearing notices were sent out to all the property owners. They were regular mail and certified mail. Everything was regular mail and certified mail and or posted on on all the structures. We had to follow through with legal ad advertisement, which was done on September 18th. It was advertised in the Tribune Review on the September 25th and October 2nd. We also had to have an asbestos inspection completed per the requirements for Allegheny County Health Department. That was done by Allegheny Global Environment, and that was completed on October 6th. For these buildings, all the public safety entities of Monroeville were notified. The dispatch center was notified. There's been alerts posted on all the previous 10 and the additional 5. So all 15 structures have alerts on them to the dispatch center. That way, if there's any police, EMS, or fire calls for service for anything, they'll all be notified that the buildings are unsafe, not to enter the buildings, and that they are vacant. The Allegheny County Fire Marshal was notified for all of them, and final notices will be posted on the structures referencing the demolition timeframe if and when they're approved this evening. So the list of 5 structures, as Mr. Hugo said, is 232 Willow Drive, 2521 Woodlawn Drive, 2820 Robert Street, 213 Waldish Drive, and 320 Valley Road. A little difficult not having a laptop in front of you, so it's a little change for me. So we're going to start with 232 Willow Drive. The current owner for that is a Holly McIntosh. Her address is in McKeesport. We've had no correspondence with her. She's been an owner since 2004. Best of our knowledge, it's been vacant for over 7 years. There are no utilities. There are occupied residents around the property. There's 2 accessory structures on the property. They're both sheds. And we just got the asbestos reports back, and there's no abatement indicated for any demolition of this property. Both of these pictures that are taken here, I know they're hard to see in the packet, they're grayscale, but here, these are from Willow Drive from the front of the structure, and these 2 are from the back of the structure. Those are holes in the siding for the roof. There's a deck on the back. The doors are all unsecure from all sides, and these are the 2 accessory structures that are there. The left is a 1 shed. It's probably 12 by 15, and there's a smaller one. It's a 10 by 10 shed that is overgrown as well. All the properties are all overgrown. We also do maintain all these properties as far as cutting grass, except for the 320 Valley. So we cut grass there every couple weeks through our municipal contractor that's sent out every year with the bid process.
Roger, would it be appropriate to make a motion now or wait till they're?
No, let's get through the hearing and then we.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, then we'll give the public a chance,
right.
Okay.
please.
All right. The next one on the list is 2521 Woodlawn Drive. The owners for this is a James and Bertha Saunders. We've had no response from them. They've been owners since 1950. Again, vacant for over 7 years, no known utilities, occupied residents around the structure. Talking with some residents over there, it's been unsecure. They really can't say how much longer. Over 10 years, it's been vacant. It is not secure either. They believe there's animals getting in. There are kids in the neighborhood. There hasn't been any problems with any of that in the building, but we don't want it to get to that point down the road. During the asbestos inspection, there was asbestos found per the requirements of Allegheny County Health Department. Anything for the demolition, the material will have to be taken to a asbestos accepting waste facility if and when the demolition does go through. So here's some pictures. These are both front pictures of the property. Again, you can see they're all overgrown with high vegetation. Like I said, we do maintain the grass around the property, but we don't cut the trees down or anything like that. Or the bushes, they're all overgrown on the building. The one to the left is coming up Woodlawn Drive from Patton Street. There's a vacant lot there. And the one to the right, you can see the neighboring residence, that is still occupied to this day. I spoke with that resident a couple weeks ago about the property, letting him know that this was all going forward and him hoping that something can be done with this. Next on the list is 2820 Robert Street. The owner of record is a Christine Powles and a John Faulkner. We've had no response from them. Their mailing address is in Sarasota, Florida. They've been owners since 2007. Again, vacant for over 7 years, no utilities, occupied residents around them, and there's been no asbestos abatement indicated on the report from the previous inspection. The one picture to the left is coming up from Broadway Boulevard. That's the front of the structure. When you turn on to Robert Street, you can see both of those doors have plywood over them, securing them. There's also plywood over the door on the front porch, the side porch that is secured as well. We maintain the grass there every couple weeks. And this is just another shot of the side of the building. Next on the list, 213 Wallace Drive. Owner is an Angelo Falvo. Again, no response. Owner since 1963, vacant for over 10 years per the residents on Wallace Drive. They believe that family moved to West Virginia, just up and left the house one day. We've done multiple inspections. The doors were unsecured. There's a vehicle on the property that had West Virginia registration plates. They no longer have them. It looks like they just up and left one day and never decided to come back. Debris from that demolition will also have to go to a asbestos accepting waste facility per the inspection. Here's some photos. This is from Wallace Drive looking down. The driveway goes to the left. You can see the red SUV in the front, and then the driveway goes down around the back of the house, all overgrown vegetation. This is the back of the structure, overgrown. There's debris all around the property. And this is, again, just the driveway looking down the side of the house. So I believe this sits on over 7 acres of land on that hillside as well. Next one, 320 Valley Road. Svetlana Mishna is the owner of record. She's owned it since 2006. She currently lives in Shaler. We actually spoke with her and her family member, who's in the audience tonight, within the past couple weeks about this property after all the postings, mailings, and everything's been done. To our knowledge, there's no utilities. There are occupied residents around here. There's a large amount of debris that was in the yard and along the property. The gentleman here in the audience has actually removed a fair amount of that since this has all taken place. We did walk the inside of the property with him. There's no asbestos abatement indicated per the inspection report. This is the photos that were taken about 2 weeks ago. You see all the overgrown vegetation, all the debris around the properties. Again, high vegetation. I'm sorry?
Where's Valley Drive?
Down on Adderley, across from Lincoln Way Supply. And this is, again, the picture, I'm sorry, to the left is looking back towards Robert Street and Valley from their side yard, and then the front, the one to the right, is looking up at the house, the side yard. That's all for the structure information. These additional properties will bring the total demolition for 2020 up to 15 structures, as Mr. Hugo stated at the beginning. Demolition is supposed to be completed by the Public Works crews. The funding for this project will obviously help fight the blight in Monroeville and help us moving forward.
You've been notifying these people since March.
Yes.
We have been notifying, they understand the process that we go through. These have been in the code enforcement loop for years.
I'm
Yes.
sure.
And we've used the same addresses every time to notify, and this is typically what happens. So we've been in this loop for years. You know, the first is you go to the magistrate, nobody shows up at the magistrate, and you send them in the new citations, and you're continuing this loop, and we get to a demolition phase, and you send them information about the demolition. All of a sudden, you post a structure for a show cause hearing,
Yeah.
we show up.
And these notifications are done by certified mail.
They are done,
Correct.
legally you have to do it by certified mail, which we do, but we also post a structure and a regular mailing, in addition to the certified mailing.
And we as council,
addition
we
to
get
the
phone
newspaper.
calls from the residents.
Yes.
Certainly.
Yeah, that's the
Neighbors.
advertisement for this hearing tonight is what
It's
goes in
not
the
good for their
newspaper.
neighborhoods.
And so you mentioned about the 10, there's funding from last year for the 10, these 5,
Correct.
the approximate cost?
So there was $30,000 in the operational budget to demolish these 5 structures. But I feel that Public Works can do the demolition in-house, and we could save a lot of money by doing it. There are some things that we're gonna do, like we did the asbestos investigation. We'll have to hire a third party to remove the asbestos out of those 2 structures. We have to follow the rules like everybody else. We have to get a plumbing plan for the disconnect of the water and the sewer. We have to get the utilities disconnected. We could do the work and then lien the properties for the cost incurred.
And you're working with the water authority?
Yes.
And if these go through, once these properties are demolished, then the actual lots themselves, what happens to them?
Well, unfortunately, we, as the other ones we've done in the past years, we'll end up cutting the grass and continuing to lean the properties.
And then depending on the location, some could go back to nature,
Yes.
if it's in an area where
could.
you could grow.
But a lot of them are in the single-family areas, and, you
There are
know,
neighbors.
the neighbors will call and complain.
Will they become Monroeville's property then?
No. No,
Whose
ma'am.
property do they become? They stay the
They
current
still
owner?
stay with the current owner.
We'll let Mr. Ratcher speak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they stay in the name of the record owner unless one of the or all of the taxing authorities decide to go through the condemnation process. Or, excuse me, not the condemnation process, the tax sale process.
Okay.
Now, the problem with that is that probably costs between $5,000 and $7,000 to do. So you've already been maintaining it for, in some cases, maybe 10 years. And you're cutting the grass and doing things, maybe removing debris. And so you have all those expenses, you have the expenses of tearing them down, and then your reward is you get to pay another $5,000 to $7,000 to take possession of them, and then it's your property, you've got to permanently maintain it. So it's a big dilemma, it's a big
It
policy
is.
issue.
I mean, we have some very viable buildable lots that we've demolished structures on, but nobody wants to go through that cost and that process to obtain a lot, because it's just not feasible to do that.
That seems crazy.
Mr. Yugas,
Yes, sir.
is there anything about, any plans on the Bishop property on Old William Penn Highway?
We've had conversations with a Bishop representative and his contractor both. They have not submitted the demolition application yet, but their intent is to do that.
Thank you, sir.
So council, any other questions for Mr. Sonnenfeld or Mr. Hugus regarding this part of the hearing at this point?
Good
Not
job,
these
Dave.
5, but I do have one more question. The 10 that we talked about before?
Yes,
Does
ma'am.
that include the house that the roof's fallen in on Monroeville Boulevard? Has anything happened with that?
I was going to bring that up
Okay.
at his
Yeah,
before.
yeah, what happened there?
Yeah, what
No.
happened with that?
Nothing's happened with that. We were proceeding to go into common pleas court with that, and then we ran into the pandemic, and the civil courts have really slowed down.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I think next week they're gonna start having
Is the guy
civil
still
hearings
living in it,
again.
I think,
I believe he is.
Yeah.
Yes, he's still living there.
and that's kind of worrisome with the weather changing. So, okay, but that was,
Good question.
It is not one of the 10.
it's not one of the 10, it's not one of these 5, so
No.
it's a whole separate,
Correct.
thank you.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna seek we're gonna do these in order. I know there is some representation of one of the properties, so let me get a motion and a second to approve, unless you wanna stop me?
Yeah, I want to stop you. I just want to get one thing on the record, and that is, are there any interested parties in the audience that want to comment or give testimony on 232 Willow Drive, 2521 Woodlawn Drive, 2820 Robert Street, or 213 Wallace Drive? Anyone? Let the record show that no one came forward.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't know if I should do that after there's a motion and a second,
okay.
not necessarily. It's done now.
No, it's not now.
So can I, Mr. Ratcher, can I seek the motion to actually accept those 4
You
collectively?
can act on those 4 right now if you choose to do so.
All right, so council, what I'm going to ask for is a motion and a second to authorize the demolition of slums and blight at the location of 232 Willow Drive, 2521 Woodlawn, 213 Wallace, and 2820 Roberts.
Motion.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve. Any comments or questions, council, about those properties? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Arsenko?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
The ayes have it, very good. So, moving over to the property at 320 Valley Road, there's a representative here. Mr. Polnick, if you'd like to come on up to the podium. Yeah, Mr. Sonnenfeld, you can stay right there, and you can go to Mr. Polnick, go to the podium right there. That'd be great if you could state your name for the record, please.
My name is Michael C. Polanic.
Polanick. Welcome. So, you already were sworn in, so you're here to present about 320 Valley Road.
Yes. My niece bought this, well, actually, my niece didn't buy it. And there was a small mistake up there that said that she bought it in 2006. I think it was actually 2013, but that's not.
But she is the owner,
Yeah.
that's true.
And to represent her, I also got my name put on the deed because they told me that I might not be able to represent her if I didn't do that. So, my niece has a condition called spina bifida, which means it's a degenerative disease and she's confined to a wheelchair. And I bought the house, I guess in 2013, because it was a single floor house and she could, not have to go upstairs or downstairs because she couldn't. I got a good start on the work on the house. I have a new, lifetime roof on it. I have all new Anderson windows. I bought all the appliances. They're all inside the house. Stove, refrigerator. I bought a new furnace, a new air conditioning unit.
We're talking about 320 Valley Road, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I have all the flooring bought. On the inside, except for the kitchen, I have all the plasterboard up. But the outside, I kind of let go, and I'd like to apologize for that because that's the part that everybody in the neighborhood has to see. And to be honest, it really bothered me too, but other things get in the way and didn't really have the time to deal with that. Since this came to a head, I've been really working hard at it, and I've got all of the vegetation cut down and removed. There are some mounds of dirt in front of the house that I was going to use. I got it from whenever they redid the water line on that street. And they said, I have any place to dump it? And I said, yeah, dump it down there because I want to level the yard out. So it's dumped there, but I haven't leveled it out yet. Actually, I was working on leveling it out. I got some of the dirt moved, but my backhoe broke down 2 days ago. And I've been working on it for 2 days, but it's just a difficult job to get it running again. The starter went, and where the starter is, you have to take practically the entire thing apart, backhoe apart to get to it. But I'm almost there. And
Mr. Roger, can I ask a question?
yeah,
Yeah, sure.
Because I can't understand part of what he's saying. I missed, he said he was the owner since 2013?
Yes,
Yeah.
not me.
Purchased it for your niece, correct?
No, my niece purchased it in 2013.
We can't.
Sir, Mr. Polanic, would you be comfortable removing your mask just so we could
Oh, sure.
speak more, so you could hear you more?
Yeah.
clearly?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Let's see. She purchased it from, being the premises that Joseph Frankert, a single person, by his deed dated July 29th, 2013, and recorded in the office of Allegheny County in the deed book 15.
When did you become part owner?
This morning.
Oh, who's living in
So-
the house?
No one's living there now.
All right, so your niece purchased the property or you purchased it?
I purchased it.
And put her name on
Put
it.
her name on it.
And you've owned it, and this house has been owned by your niece or purchased by you
Yeah,
for the past 7 years?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So what's been going on with it for 7 years?
Well, like I said, I got a good start on it. I got a new roof, soffit, fascia, windows, all that stuff inside. But
I admire your effort there, but for 7 years?
Well, if you prioritize things in life and,
I get it.
Well, have you been,
have
you been in the house, Mr. Sonnenfeld?
I have.
Does it look like it's almost finished with renovations and we
No.
just have to?
No,
He's making it sound like it's
He
completely.
did start, and all the material that he named is all in there, but he's basically gonna have to start from the bottom up again because of some mold issues. The animals have been in there. So, I mean, all the appliances and everything are still wrapped, still sealed, all that. But as far as the drywall that's been put up or that he bored anywhere, there's a lot of damage from.
And to speak to that point, so if the appliances are there, or I think you mentioned new windows, if this was moving forward on the demolition of this, the owner would have the opportunity to remove those items?
I would believe so. Yeah, it's still their property, so they could get out whatever they would need to.
Bob, even like, say, things that are fixtures that are attached, even like say if there's new windows, would an owner be able to?
Oh, yeah, it's their property, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to let everybody consider that.
Well-
Mr. Arcego.
No, go ahead, Mr. Harvey, go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Harvey?
Go ahead, Ron.
I was just gonna ask, what would council think about tabling this one for 30 days and giving him his opportunity to get the outside and inside cleaned up with allowing our building inspectors to look at it?
Absolutely, it'd be great.
I'm
Well,
just
and
giving him
I
an
also
opportunity.
want all the back money paid. That's like, if we're taking care of the outside of it, that money needs to be reimbursed to the municipality.
That's a good point. So do we have a
Yeah.
I don't believe we've been cutting the grass there. It's one of the ones we haven't been, but I'm not sure what's owed through the magistrate as far as property maintenance issues.
Right.
I know we've
Are you
gone over
willing
there
to pay
multiple
those
times
as
for
well
that.
in the next 30 days?
That he'd have to go to the magistrate and find out what's owed over
I'm
there.
a handyman, and people aren't very okay with inviting handymen into their homes since the pandemic started.
No one's asking you to go
Yeah,
to someone's
but
home.
I
Are you
don't-
willing to pay back
I would
money?
be willing to pay it. I do not have any money right
Oh.
now. I'm on food stamps and I get free health care, and I just don't have the money to pay it.
Okay.
The little bit of money I can get from jobs here and there, I use it to buy gas and pay for car insurance.
Well, how are you gonna pay for mold abatement and stuff like that I'm understanding from Mr.
There's
Zumfeld?
one little piece of mold by the front door. It's a triangle about like this, because there was a leak in the skylight that, just flowed down the wood ceiling and hit that spot.
I'm just
Mold
trying to.
abatement, I think will be,
Do you reside in Monroe?
yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to give the resident an opportunity to get fixed up.
I
So
understand.
the first thing I was gonna ask is that the council table the demolition, let the building inspectors go down there and see if he's made progress with that. Then we will talk to him about his back money and things like that. I just wanted to give him 30 days to get the structure and the outside of the
Is your
structure.
anticipation to sell the property, sir?
I think right now we're thinking to sell the property once it's fixed up. There's also a possibility, see, I own the house about 60 feet up the street on Steel Street, and I'm living there with my sister. And my plan was to give her that house and either me move down to a Valley Road or sell it and then just give that money to my niece.
Okay.
So I don't know if you can give this answer off the cuff, but what would have to be done to the house to make it okay, to get it off this list? Is it it's the property maintenance
The
violations?
property itself is securing it and getting the work done on the inside. Like I said, there's been
I
animals
can't
throughout.
possibly finish work on, I'm only one person and I have no money to hire people. And
Sir, it's been 7 years.
I know, but from here on, 30 days is not gonna be enough for me to finish the inside.
He's asking 30 days, there'd be some improvement.
Yeah,
Some
Inspector
securing of
come
the
in, look at
building.
it, And we'll go by his,
I think the outside's a bigger issue than the
thinking.
okay,
Exactly.
if he would give me directions,
And I think
for me to
speaking
follow.
of Mr. Ratcher, even, and the exterior is typically more of the problem on
Okay.
any property. That's what neighbors complain about, that's what community people
yeah.
coming into our community look at and
Yeah.
see, and that's, we talk about blighted properties, that's what really brings down the value of
Uh-huh.
properties in a neighborhood, is the exterior, because really, you can have a nice home that really is a mess inside.
Yeah.
Someone driving through a neighborhood doesn't know that, but
Uh-huh.
the exteriors are really what we're trying, this council and our staff are really trying to tackle with these blighted properties.
Okay, in 30
Really-
days, I could have the outside looking great.
Mayor, and if I could add to that, also, the structure has to be secured so there's not animals coming in and out, because the neighbors are not gonna be happy with that
Yeah,
either.
there is a broken window on the ground floor that I'll take care
I
of.
mean, if that's only a broken window, that shouldn't be a big issue, but, I mean,
And
that to me is as
I
important.
just asked Jason, is that consistent with being able to secure the property?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we can secure the property and take care, and you're saying you can take care of the outside in 30 days?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if that is Ron, is that your motion then?
Yeah,
Well,
that's.
but I also think what Bob Williams brought a good point up. Let's see what the progress is and then
Yeah,
maybe.
I
in
agree,
30
but
days.
I agree with Mr. Harvey,
My
let's
motion
give
is
him the
to
30
take a look
days.
at it in
Yeah.
30 days.
Yeah,
Take it off this
and I'll-
list.
I'll
Well,
second
I'm
it.
good.
Yeah.
I'll go with that. We'll give you, I'll go with 30
I
days.
have a
I
question.
second
He
that.
says he doesn't have any
Table it
funds
for 30 days.
to continue with the property. Did I hear that
Oh,
correctly?
everything that I need to finish the property is already on the property. Everything is, I've been collecting, you asked me what I've been doing for 7 years. As I see a good deal, I'll buy it. I've got all the hardwood flooring bought. I have, all the utility or appliances bought.
It's not about the inside at this minute.
Oh, on the outside, yeah, it's just me. And,
I'm simply asking for substantial
So,
improvement.
what I'm hearing, and we could craft this a little bit, because if we look at our meeting schedule, our next meeting, our official meeting is November 10th, which is less than 30 days. Mr. Harvey, would you be willing to give him 60 days, and that way it gets us to our December meeting? Because otherwise, we'd be giving him 27 days.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and he's got,
He didn't ask
even with
you.
his good intentions, I think he's got a lot of work to do to get it. Yeah, it's not.
And also, too, keep in mind, just to say for this for the record, so Mr. Hugus, Mr. Sonnenfeld, let's say if the ones that we did approve this evening, the first 4, how quickly do you intend on having those demolished?
I would tell you that we would probably start, working on those in November.
The first 10, though?
No, the first 4 of these
Yes,
ones we're
okay. So
talking about here.
11.
10 are
Right.
within the
The
next.
10 are gonna start, and they're gonna be done by the end of the year. The 10 that occurred last summer.
They're being done by private contractors,
They're being
right,
done
through
by
the
private
COG grant.
So
Yeah.
the 4 or maybe 5 that we're talking about this evening, what's the goal to have them removed?
I'm hoping to have most of them done by the end of the year, if not early next year.
So, giving until
I would
December.
be willing to change
And-
my motion to 60 days.
And let me just dovetail off that real quick. I know you want to give them till December, and that's fine, but
Weather.
there's this thing called winter
Weather.
coming, and that'll slow everything down real quickly.
Can we go 45? Would that help with, as far as?
Well, I don't think you're really going to talk about it till December meeting, which is, whatever that is.
So, Mr. Ratcher, if I could, so council can put whatever time limits they want on it at this point.
Correct.
Now, can we set up a time where, do we have to meet to act on it, or can we make it administratively with,
No, we would be tabling the
we're
show
only
cause
tabling,
hearing.
we're not doing,
Yes.
we're not doing it with
You're
conditions?
not deciding it, you're tabling it with the agreement that he's gonna take these actions in 60 days. We come back in December, these actions haven't been taken, then you make a decision on it. Just
think
as
we-
you did on the other ones.
I think we
tonight.
got to show you a progress report
Right.
in December
That's what I'm
to see
asking.
what's done.
Yeah.
Correct. So you may end up back up, they may end up back at your property in 45 to 50 days to get all the documentation together they need to
Not me,
present
they
to
will.
us.
Okay,
Okay, just so you're aware.
okay.
Do you have help to help you continue with this project?
Well, oddly enough, the neighbor across the street, I met him today, and he says he's a civil engineer, and he's interested in buying the property up the hill. And he says, anytime you need some help, just let me know.
So what am I changing the motion to 60
Yeah.
days?
You're gonna need a lot of help, that's for sure.
Your motion is
I
to
can do
table.
a lot myself.
Okay.
With the
I
idea
can
that
do a lot
in the
myself.
60-day
Good
period,
luck. I wish you
he'll
luck.
undertake to
Well,
clean up the
I'll show you the
outside and
pictures
secure
of
the
it.
property.
Okay, do we have to make a motion on that?
Yeah, we do.
Go ahead,
Go ahead, Ron.
make it, Ron.
So my motion is to give the resident of 320 Valley Road 60 days from tonight, and building inspection will go over and look for substantial improvements, and we'll decide at that time.
It's a tabling.
We're gonna
Your
table.
Motion is to
Motion
table.
Motion to table.
Motion to table.
So we have a motion to table, is there a second to table?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, no further discussion, roll call to table this item.
Mrs. Gatos?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Arsenko?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
The item is tabled. Sir, the clock is ticking.
Okay.
Wish you the best.
Wish you the best.
Thank you,
I
thank
really
you
do.
very much, and,
Good luck. You got a lot of work ahead of you.
yeah, I'm not a stranger to work.
I think we need to make it sure.
Get her done.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor, if I could have
thank you.
one more item, please.
Yes.
As it relates to structures, we recently received information from the Tri-Cog Land Bank, because I know this is always a discussion.
Hey, Mr. Hugus, is this part of the actual hearing
No.
for these 4? Okay, so,
Oh.
council, if I could get a motion to close the public.
So
session.
move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Sonnenfeld. Mr. Hugus.
No problem. We got an update from the Tri-Cog Land Bank, because I know a lot of you always ask about the updates on those. So currently, the Tri-Cog Land Bank in answer some questions here too. They currently own 220 Poplar Street, 2037 McKinney Road, and 412 Alpine Village Drive. The ones that they're actively pursuing is at 1462 Madden, 451 Blackberry, 422 Bruner, 611 Snowball, and 2712 Fifth Street. And in addition to that, they are also looking at 203 Knoll, 252 Azalea, and 520 Firethorn. So in addition to the 15 that we have basically on the list, you have 11 more in the land bank queue. So,
Nice.
you know, we have a total of 26 structures that we're trying to get something done with.
Wonderful.
Great.
Great news.
Excellent work.
Okay.
Once again,
Thank you, guys.
light
Good
really
job.
brings down the value of a community and a neighborhood, so
Thank you very much.
your efforts are appreciated. Great job.
Thank you.
Mayor, can we ask for a break, please? Before we go into,
Sharon, you a break?
Please.
Council, I'm going to take a 5-minute recess.
thank you.
Good to me. Hold his budget presentation to 3.
All right.
We're back out from a recess, council. Moving over to our next item. Reports of our municipal staff this evening. Mr. Ratcher, do you have anything for this evening?
I'll yield my time to Mr. Little.
Nobody else allowed to do
Short
that.
You had 30 seconds, Mr. Ratcher.
Yeah, I
so
had
we'll
30
give-
seconds, so
give
now he's
30
got
seconds.
3 minutes
I
and 30
understand
seconds.
Mr.
Okay.
Ratcher was given a half an hour this evening. So
All
I
right, so
got his
then-
half an hour plus my half an hour. This will only take about an hour.
Yeah, so Mr. Little, the floor is yours. You have numerous items, including the budget that you're going to present to council.
Yeah, as everybody knows, the budget's supposed to be presented to council at the October meeting. We're going to have two public hearings, and the first one's on October the 29th, scheduled at 7 o'clock, and also the next one, the second one, November 5th, which would be during the council work session. And even if council does not have a work session due to the pandemic, I would implore council to have it that evening anyway, which I think would be more clean, and then have it during the council meeting of November the 12th.
I agree.
Okay, the 2021 budget is $36,539,253. It's an increase of about 1.2%. As I have mentioned to a couple council members, there's good news and bad news. The bad news is that most municipalities are going to be experiencing a revenue shortfall. The good news is that we can weather it, hopefully, because we have a decent fund balance that we have accumulated through the last 4 or 5 years. Through the bracket that's in the budget message, which anybody will be able to see on our website tomorrow, is the indication of where the shortfall will be in the business mercantile tax and also the earned income tax. The highlights of the budget are an estimated reduction of business privilege and mercantile tax about $2.8 million, and earned income tax about $250,000. There's also going to be a non-transfer of $1 million from the OPEB, and that's the same as last year. Big ticket items for the capital are going to be $663,000 for body and car cameras and mobile data terminals for the police cars, and also $200,000 for new police vehicles. One of the big items here that has, we haven't had such an increase as we have here now is the pensions. We have an increase of $972,000 approximately in pension obligations for next year, and that's because we have hired more people in the public works on MS4, and even some people we've hired 2 years ago, their obligations or their salaries are coming onto the pension, and the salaries is what drives that. Also, the other big item, we're going to be using approximately $5.9 million of our fund balance reserve. That's a projection, and that's a big one. Construction of a retaining wall at Old Ramsey Road, that's going to be $1 million, but that'll be taken out of the pollution control and flood reduction fund. That will not be taken out of the general fund. Estimated revenues and expenditures are outlined. And as everybody knows, the COVID-19 pandemic has wreaked havoc on cities and municipalities across the country, and most likely this isn't going to just continue into 21, it's going to affect 22. For our this year revenue, projecting about a 4% decrease of losing about $1 million in revenue this year. For 2021, projecting about a 9% decrease. Good municipalities that are better off across the country and even the state, they'll have about a 5.5% decrease. Really hard-hit municipalities will have maybe about a 15% decrease. And that all depends on what you have as your revenue structure, your tax structure, whether you rely more on business, whether you rely more on real estate, sales tax. We do have a business privilege tax. Most municipalities don't. That's where our biggest shortfall is going to be. I won't go through the outline of the capital expenditures. I hit on the highlights of that. Employee benefits. We have 67 retirees post-retirement health benefits that they will be receiving, and 142 active employees. As far as the revenue discussion, we'll be taking in approximately $22,480,000 in revenue, which is about 62% of the budget, and that's about a 10% decrease. Usually we're in the low 70s, about 72%. One mil tax increase usually brings in about $2.3 million. Real estate tax is not going to be affected that much, and it usually is not affected by most municipalities. It's your sales, business, and wage taxes that are going to be affected. Our assessment has gone up to a small degree, approximately $6 million. We're at about $2,322,550,000 on assessment. That's as of the latter part of August. Real estate tax will be taken in about $9 million, which is usual for most years. Earned income tax, as I mentioned, for next year proposed about a $250,000 decrease. We've been going through that revenue chart each month for the last 6 months, and I'll go through that after I finish the budget. And our wage tax has been holding steady, better than we thought, but there's still somewhat of a decrease. As I mentioned, mercantile and business privilege, about $2,785,000 decrease. And this is due to closures of businesses. This is due to not only the closures, but what else do we have here? Bankruptcies and anything else that's coming out of the tax office that they see on a percentage basis that we have reductions on with respect to businesses closing up or filing for bankruptcy. So that's basically we're going to be losing. On the delinquent, our tax office has done a good job of collecting delinquent and mercantile taxes over the last 4 years, but we're looking at a projected decrease of about $100,000 there. As I said, the general fund reserve is going to dip about, we're going to be using about $5.9 million in order to balance the budget. We'll still end up at the beginning of this year, 2021, we'll still have about $12 million, but we're going to be using part of that throughout 2021. We could be using more, we could be using less. We don't know. I haven't touched anything in the swimming pool money we got from the sale of the swimming pool. That $1 million is still in its own separate fund. I haven't touched anything on that as far as balancing the budget. One of the bright spots is our health benefit premiums have only gone up 0.5%. There's no increase in dental and vision. And that actually is looking because of different statuses among employees. We're actually having a decrease of about $136,000 on that. Our capital expenditures on our debt service, that's still about 10%. That's still high. That's not going to reduce until 2024. And we still have leases out. We just paid off the lease last year on our last garbage truck. And the only leases we have out now are for the 2015 pumper and through the command truck, which we purchased in 2014. The capital items, as I mentioned, 4 police cars, body cameras, and the road resurfacing program, I put at $1 million. I know council has, last year, we spent close to $2 million, but I put that at $1 million because of the reduction in revenue. And again, Old Ramsey Road, that's going to cost about $1 million. We put, back in 2015 or 14, we put about $425,000 into one section, 150-foot section of Ramsey Road, and our engineers told us at that time, at some point in the future, it's going to have to be repaired, the whole thing. Well, that time has come, and we're going to have to do that next year. Also, emergency management services, that was put into the budget last year at the 11th hour, and it's going to continue this year, $185,000 for the EMS, and that's for capital items. Pollution control and flood reduction, $3.8 million projected to collect there. And we will take the last of the $500,000 that is owed to the general fund and transfer. That's part of making up the loss in our revenue for 2021. And as I mentioned, the OPEB fund is going to have a transfer from the OPEB fund because there's about a $4.3 million liability that the OPEB fund owes to the general fund, because the general fund has sustained the payment of the retiree health care costs. So we're gonna be having $1 million coming out of the OPEB, but we're not putting anything in from the general fund. Now, you'll notice in the budget, and last year council asked, and we've done that, Josie Rock, our finance director, has done that. There's a separate line item of a transfer from the general fund to the OPEB fund. That is not the transfer with respect to paying for retiree. That is for paying for retiree, but we usually separated that out in each individual department in years past in the budget. This year, we took it as an aggregate and we put it in so everybody can see what we're paying for retiree health care. The other transfer we just did for investment purposes. We would transfer $1 million in, and then when Marquette and Associates, our finance advisor for the OPEB fund, would say, okay, we're building up the fund because the stock market has done well over the last 3-4 years. Now it's time to pull some money out. We're not doing that. All we're doing is taking money out, in order to help balance the budget. This is for the payment of the retiree, for the retirees. We pay $1.6 million for retiree health. That's not talking about the active employees, that's retiree health. And also, as I said, we have a huge increase for pensions next year of about $972,000. The fund balance analysis is laid out, and as council can see, we're starting out at the end of last year in 2019, about $17 million, which is good. And to speak to that, council has a copy of the CAF or the audit at their desks, and we'll be setting up a meeting with the finance committee, which is made up of Mr. Wilson and Mr. Harvey and our auditor, Hozak Inspect, to go over the CAFR. And that will be on the website tomorrow also, along with the budget. And you can see the estimated revenues taken in for the last quarter of this year and expenditures. We're basically looking at about $2.4 million using this year of fund balance for 2020. And as I said, moving down to the usage of the fund balance for 2021, we're looking at about $5.9 million, which at the end of 21, projected having about $6 million in a fund balance, which is good, but we're going to be going through a lot of the fund balance, within the next 18 months, or I should say in the next 16 months, and that's in order to balance the budget. These are all projections based on different organizations, the International City Managers Association, the Brookings Institute, Tax Officers Association, on what municipalities in Pennsylvania and across the country are probably going to be losing depending on their tax structure. And also meeting with the tax office basically on what we're going to be losing from the business and mercantile tax. So that's basically the outline of the 2021 budget, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Council?
Not right now.
Yeah,
Not right
and
now.
once again, we have two
Through
public
it.
hearings coming up, and we'll be talking about this extensively. And once again, those dates, Mr. Little, for the record, they are October 29th at 7 p.m. and November 5th at 7 p.m. Both those are.
6:30. Second one.
The second one's at 6:30.
The second one's at 6:30,
Yeah.
because we don't, it's up to you
Right.
whether you have a.
What was the second date?
November
November
5th.
5th.
November 5th. They're both a Thursday.
Okay, but before we move on to the next item, as I normally do, I just thank all the staff, the department heads, and Josie Rock, and Tina Mueller, and Dara, and Jill, and all the department heads and everybody for putting this. We started this 2 months ago and put it together, and it's a big project, and just thanks, and I mean that sincerely, because I can't do it by myself. They help tremendously. Okay, the next item on the, under my report is, we received a letter from the Borough of Pitcairn. Basically, they had a meeting, and I'll read the letter, paraphrase it on behalf of Pitcairn Borough Council. I'm following up our phone conversation earlier today. I'd asked to contact you regarding council's request that the Municipality of Monroeville and Monroeville EMS consider waiving the monthly fee for primary EMS coverage in the Borough of Pitcairn. Council values the relationship with both entities, and rather than a transfer to EMS coverage to another organization willing to provide a service of the charge, they are hoping Monroeville will want to continue working with Pitcairn. And obviously, Annette Dietz, Annette Dietz, their manager, asked if we would have a meeting, and we plan on having a meeting with them, if that's okay with council. That's up to council. What's council's pleasure on that?
I think we should meet with them and see what's,
Well,
conversation is.
I don't think all of us should meet with them.
no.
I was gonna recommend to council that me, Tim Little and Bob Ratcher meet with them, along with the chief of Company 4, who handles most of those calls.
Yeah, that'd be a good starting point, and then Mr. Little, if you could report back to council about what the next step is. Very good.
All right.
Next item.
Okay, next item is the revenue trends that we've been going over each month. As I mentioned in the budget message, the wage tax is the key thing that I've been looking at here. And it's been relatively holding its own. We're losing a little bit, and I'm projecting that we're gonna lose about $250,000. Last year was our biggest year, as you can see from the graph, which will be on the website tomorrow also. We collected about $7.9 million in wage tax last year, which is the most wage tax I think Monroeville's ever collected. I'm looking at maybe collecting about 7.4 this year and next year. So and the $250,000 reduction is based on what we have budgeted of $2.65 million this year. But if somebody would have asked me where our wage tax would have been in May, I thought we'd have lost a lot more, to tell you the truth. So it's not as bad as I had thought, but there's still gonna be some reduction on that. And also, the current business tax also has come in. We delayed that, council delayed that from April 15th to July 15th, and that has come in right on par, just like any other year, which that was even surprising. But next year is going to be a different story, because it's based on the previous year's gross receipts of the businesses in the community. So that is going to tell the tale. April 15th is going to tell the tale on what the businesses bring in to the municipality next year. And we'll know more as we move along here this year, at the end of this year, and then when we start the audit, and then also April 15th of next year. Any questions on the revenue trend that we go over each month?
Next item.
Okay, Mr. Sedlak, as we normally do, about once or twice a year. Joe, more than that?
Surplus equipment.
Okay, we have a auction on Gov Deals, and according to the Borough Code, council has to know what we're getting rid of if it's over $200. So there is a list of the items that are going to be going on Gov Deals in your packet. And if council has any questions on the list of items.
And that is for beginning October 21st.
Correct.
Begins.
It begins on October 21st, so anyone that's interested can go to,
We'll put it on the website, and it'll be govdeals.com.
it'll be on govdeals.com. It is also on our municipal website, so people have,
Yeah, we'll put it on our website, they can get a link right to it.
very good. So on October 21st, and we'll have the information on our website, but starting October 21st, these items will be up on this govdeals.com website, and people can put bids on
Great
them.
stuff, you.
The microphone will pick it up, but Mr. Sedlak assured it's all great stuff, highly valuable. Very good.
Okay, we have a streetlight request at 4900 block of Old William Penn Highway. This is towards the eastern part of the municipality where the U-Haul is. You have to make a left on McClure, then make a right. That part of Old William Penn Highway, there is a petition to put up streetlights there, and that's in your packet also, council. They are requesting, I believe it is, 3 streetlights, yes. And all those residents that live on there have signed the petition. So what is council's flavor as far as moving ahead on that?
We need 3?
That's what they were saying. They said they needed 3.
Who is, how,
And these would be,
how did they decide?
would these be these would be LED lights if they're put in?
Yeah, that would be LED, yeah.
What does it cost us to have those?
I think it's $115, if I'm not mistaken, to put an LED light.
For installation?
That's the replace one.
Yes, that's to replace them.
Yeah, that's the replace one.
Well, is there streetlights up there currently?
No.
So what does it cost to install?
No, I mean, Duquesne Light will do it, but we just have to pay for the electricity. Doesn't cost us anything.
Well, if they're LED, it shouldn't be.
Well, there's
Yeah.
isn't there I believe there's a flat monthly fee per
55
per
bucks a
light?
month per light, isn't that right?
Well, if we exchange an incandescent, or if it's sodium, I don't know what they are, for an LED, it costs us $115.
A month?
Well, to change it out.
Initial cost.
No,
that-
no, but he was asking about the monthly cost.
Well,
For
as
new
far
light.
as the difference between the monthly cost between an incandescent and an LED, they will put up an LED.
And how much they charge us a month? Their ongoing costs.
It's a flat fee, isn't it, Tim?
I believe it is.
It could be,
It's
yeah, yeah.
55 a month, am I correct? in
You could
that?
be right
No,
on
I
that,
think that's
right.
high. I know, I have one on the
30,000
property.
a year in streetlights.
30,000, wow.
Just to use, I don't
But do
have.
we need 3 lights? Did someone
This is
answer
the really
that?
short section of Old William Penn.
Correct.
With 4 houses that sits left on McClure and then immediate right.
Exactly.
Yeah, you make the right behind eye care.
Right, behind the
Right.
alley, right.
Who decided 3 lights?
The residents,
They did.
that's why I'm asking,
Well,
do we
our
really need
engineer
3?
ought to go look at it.
I have not looked at this, when we got this,
And they're,
email,
you
that
know,
was the first
Yeah,
I saw.
yeah.
Okay.
They want it.
You know,
I'm trying to think of the U.
you're here to represent this
Yes,
action?
my mother lives on the street.
I understand it needing a light, but I don't know about it needing 3. That's where I'm confused. I would need someone like.
Ma'am, would you like
Tell
to,
us.
would you like to come up and maybe explain how we got to this point?
In the meantime, I have a property, Duquesne Light put a street light on, they'll put it on their pole, not on their private pole. And they put a light up, it's a sodium light, and it cost me $20 a month. And if it goes bad, they come out and fix it.
Hi. Could you just
Hello.
state your name for the record, please?
Paula Cook.
Hi, Paula. So how did we get to this point?
It's a matter that it's a very isolated section of Old 22. We're right across from the plaza where Bella Luna is and Michael's.
Okay.
And we get a lot of traffic there, unwanted traffic that leave a lot of litter from little personal parties.
It's a dead end, isn't it?
Yes, yes. It's very accessible and very easy to get out of. And we have no guardrail there, so when cars are lost or try to turn around, that it's quite dangerous. And since PennDOT has improved 22, they scraped off the hillside, so it's a very drastic drop. So if anybody goes too close to the edge, they're down on 22. And without any lighting, it makes it even more dangerous.
So is it?
And
runs to
right
your
now,
ward.
there's only two street lights. One over by the U-Haul and one at the dead-end part of the street. But we still have that gap that it's very dark.
Can I ask if, Mr. Yugas, could we have someone from engineering take a look at that length of road and tell us how many lights are actually needed?
Sure.
And also to look at the poles that are currently.
Yeah.
Hello, Mrs. Cook.
Yeah,
you
to
do?
see.
I'm
yeah,
well, how are you?
The poles, whatever, because I mean, and it could very well be 3. Please don't mistake what I'm asking. I just want to make sure that we actually need 3, that we can't get away with 1 or 2.
Because just looking around at the different neighborhoods and the lightings that they have and everything, that we don't have the LEDs on either end. I had thought possibly the LEDs would be put in originally
They're
and would
getting
be
done.
given
They're
more
getting
light.
done, like,
Incrementally.
incrementally. They're not done all over the municipality
okay.
yet. This is an ongoing process every
Okay.
year.
Mhm.
So, but
Well,
I've never seen
possibly
anyone ask for 3 lights
two.
at once, which is what's confusing me. You know, usually someone will ask for a light in the middle of the street somewhere because there's a dark area. So, and I understand that that's, you know, could be the case. Maybe there's 3 needed, but what if we have someone take a look at it and then they can tell us?
That would be fine.
That
I
way
would
we're all on the same
appreciate
page?
that.
So,
Mr. Hughes, do you have any?
so a
insight?
quick answer for the cost, so it depends on the wattage of the bulb. It's like anything else, the higher the wattage, the more it costs, but it looks like the average cost it goes between $12 to $20 a month. Is what we pay Duquesne Light.
I'm as concerned about her saying there's no guardrail and people could drive off the street.
Yeah.
More so.
Years
Yeah,
ago, there
ever
was
see that
one
out there?
section put in, and then it was, that's as far as they got. But it is quite dangerous, and we still have the locust pole and the cables laying on the side of the road, which maintenance has mentioned that it gets caught up in their equipment when they do the trimming alongside the berm.
Is that a municipal road or is that a state road?
Municipal.
Municipal.
It's my area.
Let's get someone to take a look at that.
How about if we
Get back
have
to us.
the engineering department take a
Yes.
look?
That would be fine.
Okay.
If they agree with the 3 lights,
Then we'll agree.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
That's fair.
Thank you.
I appreciate someone
Sure.
looking at it.
But thank you for
No
coming
problem.
out tonight and
Okay.
bringing it to our attention, and
Can I see
we'll
you
look
when
into
you
it.
come out?
Absolutely,
Okay.
as always.
You got my number.
I do.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
good job, Paul.
Oh, yes, sir. I don't have an LED light in front of my house.
You're not gonna have one.
Thanks for moving it along.
They're not on my street either.
Mr. Little,
I think we're all laughing.
Okay,
next item, municipal polling places.
okay, as everybody knows, there is an election coming up, and some of the polling locations have been changed here in Monroeville. And, okay, Ward number 1, I don't believe this has changed. Monroeville Volunteer Fire Company number 3, that's Ward 1 and District 1. And also, Ward 1, District 2 is the New Covenant Church. I don't believe those 2 have changed. And any other, Councilman Linda, you want to mention anything about?
There's Cleveland Stewart as well. Where's, I don't see that.
That would be, okay, that's over in Cleveland Stewart, that would be Ward, yeah, okay, I'd get to that, that's gonna be in Ward 5, when I get to Ward 5. We're doing these
Okay,
on
because,
wards.
because each side, there's 2 different. Okay, so, but all the
Yeah, I'd
ones
like
in
to
Ward
do
1
5.
are still where they currently were.
Okay. Okay, Ward 2,
Did they move it?
Mr. Poach.
Yes, I am.
Okay, this is the Crossroads Presbyterian Church is Ward 2, District 1, and Ward 2, District 2. That's in actually Ward 2, in the physical location within that ward. Okay, Ward 3 is Gateway Middle School.
Yes, the change is, you missed the other district, which is at the library.
Yeah, I see how so if we could clear this, I know how you're doing, Mr. Little.
Oh.
If you are in the 2nd ward, and Eric and I vote at the same spot,
That's right.
if you vote at North American Martyrs Church
You're not
or
gonna be
school,
at the
you are
library.
no longer voting there. You will be voting at the library.
Library, correct.
Everyone else that votes at Crossroads, that'll still remain the same. So that's how the 2nd ward is.
Mm-hmm.
The Crossroads are all the same, but if you vote at North American Martyrs, you'll be voting at the library this year. So that's the point I want to make about the 2nd
Correct,
ward.
okay.
Okay.
Number 3, Gateway Middle School is Ward 3, District 1, and the Church of the Resurrection is Ward 3, District 2, and Ward 3, District 3. And also, University Park Elementary School is Ward 3, District 4, and Ward 3, District 3. Mr.
Ward 4,
Harvey, any?
District 3.
You missed,
In the high school, the middle
it's
school.
Ward 3, District 4, and the other half of that school is Ward 4.
It says it, Ward 4, District 3.
Yeah, Ward 4, District 3.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I share with 5,
Well, could I,
Cleveland Stewart.
if I could, and council, maybe you could help out everybody, because everybody knows where they vote or where their wards are. What are the changes? I think that's the main thing that
I
That's a
agree,
better- yes,
I
that might be a
agree.
better
By
way.
because a
saying-
lot of
by
people,
saying
some people don't even know
library.
what their ward they're in, but
Because they're
they know where they go.
Yes.
There's no changes in Ward 3.
There
No
are no
changes in 1.
There are no changes in Ward 1. So far, the only change is that North American Martyrs is now voting at the library.
Right.
There's no changes in 7.
There are no changes in
A
Ward.
lot of changes in 5.
Okay.
May I,
Yeah.
okay,
So,
for
Ms. Garcia, we have Ward
5-1, you're now gonna vote at the Hillcrest United Presbyterian Church.
Where did they?
Formerly, they were at Fire Hall 1, but now we're all moving down. 5-1 is to the United Methodist. 5-2 also used to vote at Fire Hall number 1, but you're now gonna vote at Monroeville Public Library. 5-3 has remained the same. You'll still be at the Dr. Cleveland Stewart Building. 5-4, again, used to be at Fire Hall 1. You are now at the Municipality Building of Monroeville. You're here at the Borough Building. Big changes
Yeah.
for
Sorry.
5.
How many voted at Fire Hall 1? 3 different districts?
5-1, 5-2, 5-4.
There was 3 districts there.
Yes,
Okay, so if you vote at Fire Hall 1, there's definitely a change.
100%.
And there may be some confusion, though, about where they go.
Tim, you are gonna put this up on the website.
I'm going to.
Yeah,
yes. This
'cause
will
I
be on
think
the
that'll
website.
help.
We do have information there from the county on the
Yeah.
website right now.
But I think it's easier to break it down how we have it here.
Okay.
It's pretty easy in the county website, because I checked that as well, just as an advice, is that you just put in your address.
Yeah, that
and
makes it
takes you to
super
the new
easy,
spot.
right to
It's
where you're
very,
gonna go.
very
Yeah,
easy.
polling local.
Very,
Yeah,
very-
but if you don't have a computer, for some of our seniors, this will still,
Yeah.
they can still talk to somebody that has one and they can let them know where to
Just
go.
the county website tells you right away.
I think I even shared that.
And if we
website
could, I'm
on
sure we could cooperate with
Facebook.
number 1 Fire Hall
I
to
did.
put up language on the building for the day of the election.
I'll talk to, the chief.
He just left.
His right-hand man's here.
Do that, correct?
We already have it printed up.
Very good.
And Mr. Sonnenfeld, can we get maybe even the streets? Because some people really don't know the district they're in. Sometimes, maybe we'd have a list of,
Correct.
if you are on these streets, you're voting here. If you're on these streets, you're voting there. Because there are some challenges to that.
It's,
We wanna make sure-
100% of mayor, you're right
It's
about
going to be
that.
confusing for a lot of people.
I think that should be the councilman's responsibility.
So if you could handwrite all the streets out.
Yes, please.
We'd
Here,
like,
here.
we'd like.
You know what, Mr. Harvey, I'll visit
Have
you
to do
later.
that.
I'd like to see Greg go to Fire Hall number 1 just to direct people around.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be there anyway.
Do glitter and stuff, so it's very eye-catching.
So, I'm sorry. So
We're simple.
All right with me.
And I'll just leave it at that.
are there changes in the 6th ward?
There is, the only change in the 6th ward is Ward 6, District 4, that's the Ivanhoe area, and you will be voting at the Monroeville Public Library. That's the only change.
Where did they used to vote at, Mr.
They used to
Williams?
vote at the municipal building.
So they're gonna go to the library now.
And District 4 is gonna go to the library.
Thank
I said that's the Ivanhoe apartment area.
Okay.
And Tom, you're all good though, right?
Okay, so there are some changes. 2nd ward, 5th ward, 6th ward, nothing in the 7th ward, and nothing in Mr. Wolfram's ward, Ward 4. Steve, I don't believe there's any changes in your ward.
No, there's not.
His silence means there is no change. There is no change.
People are really happy that they don't have to go to the convention center again.
Absolutely. So for the most part, yes, you are. That was a question I got a lot was, are we voting back at the convention centers? No, you are voting back at your regular places, except for these changes we've been talking about. But certainly, we'll get as much information out on the website as we can. The county will have resources. Votes PA, there's a lot of resources online to find out exactly where you're voting, or certainly contact your council representative or the main line, and we'll get you in the right direction.
Very
Okay,
good.
we will have this on the website. If anybody wants to go onto the website and look at the changes, if you feel like your voting place has changed, go on our website.
Great.
Thank you. Next item, Mr. Little.
Yeah, I received a phone call from Vitalent. Vitalent is, now they're the ones that do the blood bank.
Yeah.
And they wanted to use our council chambers on November the 16th from 2 to 7. And this would be through the Monroeville Foundation, where for everybody that comes in, Vitalent will donate $5 to the Garden City Food Bank. And I told the gentleman, I said I'd have to check with council, if it'd be okay to use council chambers for that endeavor.
Sure.
So moved.
So moved.
Yeah,
Agreed.
absolutely.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. Last item, the municipal arch.
Really?
What is council's flavor?
I thought we were gonna have to do a field trip because I forgot to look, so on break I went out and looked at it. I don't understand what the problem is. Why can't we just leave it alone?
I'll wait for everybody else to say their say.
That's an option.
I mean, I looked at it and I couldn't figure out why it's even being discussed, so maybe someone has to enlighten me.
My problem is spending $4,550 at this time.
Agreed, so that's why I need an answer as to why.
Yeah, I'd say just hold off on it with the budget and everything, and,
There's nothing structurally wrong. It's not a hazard. It's not
No.
dangerous. So,
It's not
I've
even
been
an
going to
eyesore,
building
because I
since it's
didn't in
brand
8
new, and
years
I never
even
even
know it
noticed
was
it.
up there.
Everybody done?
We won't comment.
I come to the municipal building, Tim will attest, quite a bit, and work in the office.
And I hear.
And you all don't work here.
See here again.
May I speak? Because I
Mr.
don't want to get
please.
pissed off, but I will, because this is serious. The employees I talk to that work in that area would like that taken down. If you look up there, that's not been cleaned in 20 years. 20 years. You talk about worried about COVID-19, there's probably every disease known to God and man up there. That's up there. If you clean it, what's it, Tim, you have a breakdown on the cost, what it would cost to clean it? Do you not?
Well, it's Paul, I mean, we'd do it in-house, and it would cost us about $4,500, which is most of that is labor costs.
Okay, 4,500. If we take it down one time and be done with it, you're gonna only clean it once every 20 years? Nobody wants to work in that. You wouldn't have it in your house.
We could pass an ordinance that they clean it every 20 years.
Whatever. Talk to your employees that work here, especially upstairs. They don't like it. They want it gone. We don't work here every day. They do. And it's a one-time shot, and it's finished. You all decide. You know where my vote is.
so Mr. Ratcher, I know this is just a motion and item, but it was tabled. Is it most appropriate to untable it?
It should do that, yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Sinku, you're voting
I'll
on.
motion to untable.
Just to untable it. Can I get a second to untable it?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So it's off the table now. Mr. Sinku, would you like to make a motion to move?
I'd like to make a motion to have it taken down.
Is there a second?
What was the total cost again?
Well, we're not, I mean, I just wanted to make
I'm just asking a question.
$4,500, but that was to clean it. We have three options here. We have three options, don't do anything, clean it, take it down.
We have a motion to take it down.
Right.
Is there a second to take it down? That doesn't mean we're gonna vote on it.
Is that the 4,500 to take it down, or?
Can I get a
is it
second? Can I get a second?
Clean it.
Can I get a second for the motion first?
To get it into discussion, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. So the motion second is to take it down. Now, Mr. Hugus, if you could maybe
Yes, the
help us with
4,500
figures.
was to remove it.
To remove it.
It was to remove it.
And what would be to clean it, Paul?
Oh, it'd be less to clean it, yes.
But like what, how much less?
I mean, we'd still have to bring a lift in to make access. So you still have to bring plywood in to lay on the ceramic tile floor, because there's a danger of cracking the ceramic tile floor.
Ballpark, the cost to clean
And
it.
you're probably still 2,500 to 3,000 to clean it. Because you still have to remove the panels, clean them, put the panels back up.
Like I said, council, I'm just asking you to please consider taking it down, for the simple fact is, unless you don't want to clean it regularly, once a year, you're gonna have an expense. It should be cleaned yearly. We all clean our houses regularly. This is no different. They have to live here every day. It's cheaper to take it down one time and it's over. You have two beautiful skylights up there.
But is there a concern with that, like as far as the reasoning for the decoration, as far as shade, or not shade, but
The original intent was to diffuse the sunlight that came through the skylights. That's the original architectural feature for it.
Otherwise, the skylights are gonna be open to start baking the lobby.
In the sunny days, you'll
Yes.
get a lot more sunlight.
Wouldn't there be some way you can, darken them a little bit?
Now we're-
You could, yes.
Again, much cheaper to do it one time, darken it, done.
Well, council, we have a motion and a second at this point to remove it.
I'm asking this council to support your employees that work up there.
Well, I'll take a vote on the, and this
I'll be
was
honest
40.
with you, Greg, I'll support you, but I've never had an employee approach me about that, ever.
Me either.
I'm here every day and they complain to me.
You're right.
Council, there is a motion and a second to remove it at a cost of $4,500. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Gatos?
No.
Mr. Poach?
No.
Mr. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Arcinius?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
No,
Mr. Wolfram?
No.
Motion fails.
All right, moving on.
Moving on. Mr. Little?
I'm done.
What?
Mr. Hugus, do you have anything else for this evening?
No, sir.
And is there anyone from the public here to discuss any municipal item? Seeing none, we'll move on to our council reports. Mrs. Gatos, you want to start this evening?
I'm just gonna say, everyone, please be safe, happy Halloween, take all your precautions, continue to wash your hands, wear your masks, and, that's all I have.
Mr. Poach?
Nothing else this time. Again, happy Halloween, and please be careful with it. And keep, do your best to work on distancing with folks on Halloween. Just be careful with folks on the road.
Very good. Mr. Harvey?
Just a couple things. The other things we covered during the meeting, one of them is, we had a meeting concerning delinquent MS4 fees. A letter will be going out soon to address that, to the property owners. And the second thing is, I'm, I guess, looking for council's pleasure, or what I should do, or what we should do. I got a complaint, bear with me here, on Center Road by Lozada's Auto Parts. It goes down to the Speedway gas station. There is a sidewalk. The sidewalk in front of Lozada's Auto Parts is spotless because the property owner keeps it that way. From there down to the Speedway is Speedway's obligation. I have talked to engineering and planning, and it's covered with trees falling, the hillside coming down. There's no way you can use that sidewalk. And I am told that general managers of speedways have been contacted, but they keep changing general managers. So nothing ever gets done. And I don't know what else to do except ask maybe Mr. Ratcher to fire off a letter to the corporate, or I.
Yes.
No,
Send it to
the
corporate.
owners, or the management company has acknowledged that they own it. They didn't realize they owned it. And as you said, there's a lot of turnover. This week, they acknowledged that they own it and they're going to maintain it. They're going to clean
good.
it.
There you
Stops
go.
all that.
We can,
We'll
will.
just monitor that
Thanks,
along the
Paul.
way and make sure to see that through.
Yeah.
Very good. Anything else, Mr. Harvey?
That's all, thanks.
Mr. Wolfram, we'll go in order of awards. Mr. Wolfram, do you have anything for this evening?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Very good.
Not today, I don't. Long day.
Well, thanks for being here with us over the phone. Have a nice evening.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat it? Sometimes this thing kind of cuts in and out.
You're done for the evening. You can hang up.
Okay, thank you very much, and everyone have a great evening.
Hey, good night,
Mr.
Steve.
Arcinko.
Nothing.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
no, I just appreciate staff. When I talk to them,
There we go.
when I talk to them, they're always receptive and usually get things done. And so I do appreciate our staff.
Very good. Mr. Wilson, anything this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just happy Halloween to the kids. Please be safe, wear a mask, wash your hands, and don't eat too much candy.
Very good. And yes, once again, Halloween night, Saturday, October 31st, we are having trick-or-treating, 6 to 8 p.m. We have some suggestions on the website about how to do that safely, but please use, common sense and some personal responsibility. And once again, if you're not comfortable, don't participate. But for those who do, have a great night and enjoy it. Once again, Election Day, please check on some of these changes. There is some confusion, and please get out there and vote. And lastly, the budget process, Mr. Little, great job, and a big thanks to him and the staff, all the department heads, and all the work that gets put into this. And council definitely has some work to do now over the next several weeks, couple months to get this moving forward. But a big thanks to everyone that's involved with the budget. And one thing I do want to just briefly touch on, I've been talking to Mr. Ratcher recently about group homes in the community. I know some people have these in their wards. We're trying to explore what can be done, which is, Mr. Ratcher, pretty little at this point that can be done with our zoning ordinance, but we're looking into what we can do or how the registration process goes.
The general rule and this is per the Fair Housing Act and federal law, the general rule is that when you're talking about a group home that has a bunch of individuals, maybe 3, 4, 5, they're living like a family, you cannot treat them any differently than you treat a single family of 3, 4, or 5. So, for instance, if Mr. Poach can move into a neighborhood and have 3 kids there with his wife, and when people are disabled, of course, the Fair Housing Act protects them. So what the Fair Housing Act says is you cannot treat them any differently. You can only make them register here if you make everybody register. Now, we do have an occupancy permit process when properties change ownership. So they would be subject to that just like any of us would if we moved in. But with respect to any special hearings or having to show any special drawings about how they plan to use the property, not permitted under the Fair Housing Act.
And there is, these group homes are licensed by the state.
They are licensed by the state, and they're actually regulated by the state very strictly. So people who have these licenses from the state, and they call them the providers, actually, the people who, the companies who are licensed and provide the staff that's there. They are under very stringent, I think I provided you with some of the.
There's a long list of things. That
Yeah,
they have to
the
follow.
criteria that they have to follow. And so one of the things they have to do to initiate the use there is we need to see that they are in fact licensed by the state. But that is, I mean, that's always going to be the case. I don't know how many we have here in Monroeville. Paul, can you,
We have the one.
15, 20
I
maybe?
would guesstimate 15.
Yeah. Some we've had for many years.
And before we issue occupancy permits for, sorry, Mr. Hughes, if you could. Before we issue occupancy permits to these homes that are going to be used as group homes, do they provide us with their state license?
No, nor do they have to, because we issue an occupancy permit to the owner of record. Now, that might be under a business name, LRC Incorporated, or somebody like that.
Is there any kind of
And-
registration whatsoever with your department or with the municipality?
No, we just issue an occupancy permit, like Mr. Ratcher said, as we would any individual that's purchasing property.
And I find, and it's challenging because, I mean, it's certainly, we don't discriminate here as far as, we want equal opportunity for everybody to be living, but a lot of these are businesses that are operating these group homes. And it's a shame that the way the state has handled this, where we don't even know that, we don't even get notified, which I think is an issue with not only for, your department, public safety. I mean, I think it'd be good for,
Well, the fire department, there's actually a section in the CAD system downstairs that they're supposed to be able to relay that to the units going to that, but they don't have it.
and even from a public safety standpoint, it'd be nice to know that if there was maybe, 5 people that are in wheelchairs in a particular home, that'd be nice for the dispatch center
We
to
don't
know.
know that.
Right.
And so,
And we can't invoke any of our codes to that group home.
They want to
We
voluntarily
can't make any
come.
special provisions for a sprinkler system or fire protection system. That's something that's outside of our domain to do that.
So it's
I
a
mean,
voluntary thing, Mr. Harvey? Is
So-
that what you're saying? It would be a voluntary thing on their part to say, we want you to know that we have this, so in
And
case.
they've done that. When I was chief of the fire department, I would get letters from those people, and they would give me the names and locations of the people in that house.
I would think that'd be beneficial
would
for
bring
them
up-
as well.
It's actually part of this, I'm
Was there
somewhat
an
familiar
issue,
with that
huh?
part of the state
Right.
code for that.
Is there an issue with getting that? No.
No, but
They did it willingly?
You
It
can't
does-
ask them.
we didn't know half of them. I
Right.
don't
Yeah,
know.
right.
So, Mr. Poach, you were
That's
saying?
it.
I only know
The
where one
Department
is,
of
but I
Welfare
would know.
frequently,
Yeah, I
depending
know
on which
one is mine.
type of home that it's in place, there is sometimes a requirement for them.
Yeah, it depends on the
The
category.
category of them, or if it comes to the
The
Department of
gentleman
Welfare,
that's
Department of
at the
Health,
senior
Right.
center.
to notify, to send a letter to the local fire
Gentleman
station
that's at
or.
the senior
police
center.
department.
Right,
We have-
because
we
sometimes
have-
the notification will go to the fire department,
Yeah.
sometimes it comes to the
Who's the gentleman
municipality.
ahead of the senior center?
Okay.
President.
Typically, how we find out?
President.
Because-
Excessive parking on the street, parking in the front yard, which are things that we
yeah,
can
yeah, He's on the
enforce.
planning commission.
Right.
But that's usually because the caregivers are, there's more of them
There's one
than there's
across the
parking
street from his
spaces,
house
so
on Raspberry Drive.
they start parking more.
Okay, he lives.
Okay, well, I mean, I just want to bring it to council's attention, the public's attention as well, but, you know, if there are things that we can do
You know,
for
Jim
this, we're
McAloo-
going to try to do it and look into it through
Well,
the
he's
state.
not president. He's in a nursing home.
But I just want to bring it to council's attention. Mr. Asher, thanks
Yeah,
for
he
filling
got
us in.
sick,
Across the
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I can't be more, I really have an extensive background
Yeah, yeah.
with the Fair Housing
That's
Act and
the
with
one right
disabilities
across the street
housing.
with That van
Hey,
apartment,
Gentlemen,
yeah,
if 1 second,
That
please.
is the one with the van.
yeah.
Mr. Harvey, Mr. Wilson,
Sorry.
we'll be out here in a minute, you guys can talk then, okay?
And the frustration in communities is always the same. But federal law is very clear on this. And it's been made over the last 20, 25 years. What happened originally was a lot of people with disabilities were institutionalized. They lived in these large settings. And back in the mid-'80s, really, sociologically, it was determined they'd be better off to live in these small group settings and live like a family. And so most municipalities wanted to have a separate classification for them. They wanted to have hearings, whatever. And the federal laws have been very clear on that. And the federal courts have sanctioned the municipalities that have refused to comply with those regulations. I think what you'd find is that most of the actual operators of the group homes who can be different than the owner, because the owners are probably people who are in the real estate business in some cases. But the actual operators are social service agencies licensed by the state. Most of them are nonprofit. And they're the people that make sure that the staff gets there every day. They take care of the people. You also find that they keep the properties, in most instances, very, very well.
I agree.
They're good neighbors in that respect. So there's a big body of law out there on it, and the bottom line is, the courts don't want to see any discriminatory impact in terms of what your ordinance says or what you make these people do. Is it the exact right way to handle it from a policy standpoint? That's debatable, but that's where we are right now in
And
2020.
certainly, we want to welcome everyone, but the main thing is more of just from a public safety standpoint, if there was some kind of registration process, that'd be beneficial.
I have a question. If you have 2 people in a wheelchair or 4 people in a wheelchair, somebody with multiple sclerosis, and they call the EMS, does the EMS have to bring special equipment or more equipment to deal with these situations?
Sometimes, Bob, yeah, that's the case, but you'll also find in those facilities, again, there's 2 of them that I know of, in Second Ward, that they have ADA compliant access to it. So actually, from that standpoint, they're actually kind of easier to get into in some cases in a residential home.
You ever see an ambulance sitting on the street with a pumper truck behind it? It's because they're there for manpower.
Yeah, and that,
That's my question. Takes more people to deal with this?
in some circumstances, in some situations, but you'll also find that they've made the other agencies, as Bob talked about, that operate them. And again, there've been times I've been asked to go in and look at them, to say, hey, does this work? Some of those operators have been that forward-thinking from the too. So you'll see some of those places with better access, ramps, many of those other things, because they would do it anyway and would have to allow the residents to come in. So it is a trade-off between them. And to Ron's point, yes, occasionally you need help, to do that. It's in place too. So it's not clear one way or the other specifically.
Yeah, we certainly, like I said, we talk about discrimination and asking like a family to do something differently than, say, someone that's in a group home. The issue is not that we're not asking the the person that needs the care to do these things, or ideally, we would want the person that's operating the group home to register and do these things. But at any rate, I just wanted to bring that up to council's attention. And, you know, it seems like there's little that we can do, but if things can be done, we'll continue to explore that. Maybe something we need to discuss with our higher elected officials, perhaps. So with that, I would like to seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night.